If you've been watching the national housing news at all lately, you may have seen headlines talking about sellers giving up and homes being pulled off the market at the fastest pace since 2020. Prices softening, things like that. And it might have you thinking, especially if you're considering buying or selling, is that same thing happening here? Well, I went ahead and pulled the actual numbers for Frisco and Prosper, and I'm going to be honest with you. Locally, we're not exactly following the national script. Here's what's really going on, and here's what it means for you. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Andrew with the Andrew Smith team, eXp Realty here in Frisco, Texas. And every month I break down exactly what's happening in the Frisco and Prosper housing markets, not the national headlines, the real local numbers. So with that, let's get into it. So here's what the national data is saying this month. And there are really three different forces at play. Inventory supply has been climbing for 4 straight years now. Homes are taking longer to sell and prices are softening in a lot of markets. But the headline that's getting the most attention is delistings. So basically what's happening is nationally is you've got a lot of sellers pulling their home off the market. In fact, they're doing so at the highest pace since 2020. They're basically giving up when they don't get their price. As a matter of fact, around 80% of sellers surveyed still expect to get their asking price or more, while nationally most homes are now selling for less than their list price. That gap between what sellers, I should say, expect and what's really happening is the national story right now. And we are seeing a version of that here as well. As a matter of fact, in June, homes in Frisco and Prosper were selling for approximately a 4 to 5% discount from their original list price. So on that one data point, we line up. But on the bigger picture, here's where our market goes its own way. So let's go ahead and start with prices. And for this one, I'm going to separate resale from new construction because they're telling slightly different stories. Now on the resale side, the median single family price in Frisco is currently $660,000. That's essentially flat month over month and year over year. Now in Prosper, the resale median price is around $840,000, which is down from the month previous, but it is still up about 7% year over year. Now, if we switch and look at new construction, Frisco's median sales price is around $881,000, basically flat year over year there as well. Now, in Prosper, the median new construction sales price is currently $912,000, which is actually down 6% year over year. So despite all the national prices are falling talk, locally our prices in general are broadly holding. This is a market that's been going through a lot of corrections. It's stabilization, if you like. It's not a market that is crashing. Our price is softer in certain neighborhoods. Are homes selling for less than they were a year ago? They are in some cases, but in others, they are actually selling for exactly where they were or more. A lot of it comes down to the property and the neighborhood. Now, one area where we definitely line up with the national trend is in how long it's taking homes to sell. It's definitely taking longer and sellers are having to adjust. In Frisco, single family homes are averaging around 83 days on market currently, and in Prosper, it's closer to 95. And the share of sellers that are having to cut their price or are cutting their price has definitely climbed. Right now, that's running at about 49% in Frisco and 57% in Prosper. So more than half of Prosper sellers have already dropped their price at least once. Now, list prices by comparison are essentially flat in Frisco. They haven't really moved in quite a while. And in Prosper, they are starting to edge down just a little bit. So the homes are taking longer to sell and sellers are definitely having to adjust. That's part of the national story and it's true here in our local market as well. Now, while looking at closed sales prices, median list prices, and days on market are all valuable data points. If you want the number that actually tells you where this market is heading, it's pending sales. And those are homes that just recently went under contract. And here's where we flip the national story on its head. Now, nationally, the pending sales headline is actually a positive one right now. More buyers are saying yes than they have in the past couple of years. Now, here in Frisco and Prosper, it's actually the opposite. Our pending sales are down, and they're meaningfully down. On the resale side, pending sales are down about 20% year over year in Frisco and 32% year over year in Prosper. When we look at new construction, those are also down a lot, but I'd caution you to take that with a grain of salt, because as new construction sales slowed last fall, the builders, in their response, simply stopped building as many spec homes. That's why there haven't been as many quick move-in homes available as we have traditionally seen in this market in the past. So with that in mind, there's actually fewer new construction homes to sell. That's why those numbers are down. Most of the new construction communities right now are getting a home under contract and then starting the build process. So the pending numbers here, they are a very clear signal that buyer demand has cooled. If there's less homes going under contract, that means there's less buyers out there writing offers. Now, at the same point in time, inventory has had room to move. We're at about a 5.8 month supply in Frisco and 7.4 month supply in Prosper. What exactly does that mean? Inventory or simply supply? Between 5 and 6 months is considered a balanced market. When inventory, supply of homes, is less than 5 months, that is a market that generally favors sellers. If you go back to just after the COVID years, we had about a 3-week supply of homes in Frisco. We're now at nearly 6 months. When you get over 6 months, that is a market where the conditions are favoring buyers. And that is something that we haven't seen here in quite some time. So, people are still transacting. Believe it or not, Frisco resale closings are actually up almost 9% year over year. So it's not that nothing is selling, it's that buyers now have more choice, and they've got more choice than they've had in a long time in this market. But as those pending numbers fall, pending sales number fall, it does show us that those closed sales number are also going to fall in the months ahead. So let's switch gears and talk about what you actually do with all of this data. Now, if you're considering selling, the lesson from the national delisting story is one that you really need to pay attention to. The sellers who are giving up are mostly the ones that didn't price correctly in the beginning. They were pricing based upon what happened last year, right? In last fall. And that just doesn't work. Here, the homes are still selling, but you have to be much more realistic about where the market is going. Otherwise it's just unrealistic and it's wishful pricing. Those homes are just flat out not going to sell. If you price it right from day one, make it show well, meaning you can't just ignore those things that you think should get repaired or those cosmetic deficiencies that you've been putting off. If you do, it's not going to work. And as a result, your sales price is either going to be much lower or the home is just simply not going to sell at all. And if you do put it on the market, then pull it off the market, waiting usually ends up being an even more expensive choice. Now, on the flip side, if you're buying, this is the most leverage you've had in the local market in a long time. Homes are sitting 80 to 90 days. Over half of sellers are cutting their price. The builders are motivated because their pending sales are down. Their closed sales are down. That means there's room across the board to negotiate on price, on closing costs, on rate buy downs, especially on new construction homes and especially in Prosper. Now, one caveat to that. If you're in a new home community that's fairly new and you're trying to negotiate with the builder on a home that is not yet under construction, it's still a dirt lot. Do not expect the builder to lower the base price of their home. That creates the builders all kinds of problems going forward with regards to appraisals and the other property. What you are most likely going to see is not a drop in the base price of the home. You're going to see the builder more willing to negotiate in terms of lot premiums, incentive money for upgrades and structural options, as well as an additional money in the design center. So keep that in mind as you are looking around. Now, also, if we take a quick look at mortgage rates, because that's had a huge impact on people buying, the national forecasts right now are showing that rates are expected to remain fairly stable in the low to mid 6% range. So if you're out there right now counting on a big drop in rates to save you, I wouldn't wait forever on that, because it just doesn't look as though it is going to happen. If you can actually negotiate today on a rate buy down with a builder or a resale seller, then you are probably going to be in a much better position. On the long-term forecasts are still calling for modest price appreciation on home prices overall, which means there's a window where buyers have much more leverage currently, but that window is not expected to stay open forever. Now, if you'd like to know what all of this means for your specific situation, your neighborhood, your price point, your timeline, that is the exact conversation I have with people just like you each and every week. So go ahead and grab a time on my calendar. There is a link in the description below. It's a completely free 30-minute consultation call where we can walk through all of it, and I can share some additional information about this market so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful, and I will see you in the next one.